With 24/7 customer service and guaranteed repairs, your Progressive policy works the way it's supposed to. Unlike this stressful meditation guide.
Take a deep breath. Focus on all the things you have to do. Did someone make the vet appointment yet? You don't know? That feels like something you should know.
Switch to Progressive today.
You are a mess.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Repairs through Progressive Network shops guaranteed for as long as you own or lease your car.
Has it been a while since you flipped that thermostat from heat to cool? Turn to the experts at Griffith Energy Services before you do for an $88 AC start and check to make sure your AC is in tip-top shape. Griffith specializes in Carrier, but services all brands. Visit GriffithEnergyServices.com today. Your local Carrier expert. That's GriffithEnergyServices.com. License number MDHVACR 01-2278.
Griffith Energy Services. Doggone dependable.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Ann.
And I'm Matt, and we are the hosts of Boozed and Confused.
Boozed and Confused dives into the weird topics that you never knew existed.
Join us every Monday to drink and discuss all things unknown, unexpected, otherworldly, and just plain strange.
Each week, we will take you on a journey to learn about things like time travel and who John Teeter is,
weird history like the New England vampire panic,
conspiracy theories like Katy Perry being John Benet Ramsey, or aliens,
or the paranormal like ghosts that haunt the White House.
Listen to Boozed and Confused every Monday wherever you get your podcasts.
See you then.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Crime Divers.
So before we get started, we would just like to tell everybody that today is the last episode of season 2.
Yes, so we will be taking a little break because I think we deserve it.
Yeah, well, we haven't really had a break. We took a week off at Christmas, but we still released a Patreon episode.
We did, yes.
So
we are definitely having a couple of weeks break this time.
Yeah, we're going to take a couple of weeks off. So I'm totally unorganised and I'm just going to look at my diary. So we will be back on the 1st of June.
1st of June.
Yeah, that's when season 3 starts, on the 1st of June. There will be, our Patreon will just be as normal.
Yeah.
But I think that's only kind of one episode anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will be back on the 1st of June. So we're just having a couple of weeks break.
Yeah.
Just because we're constantly talking, researching, thinking about murder. And
everybody deserves a holiday, don't they?
So we're just having a
couple of weeks off just to recharge our batteries and...
Yeah, but, you know, if we've got plenty of episodes that you've maybe not caught up on yet, so you could catch up on all the old episodes, or you could...
And if you have caught up, then you're just going to have to miss us for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, or sign up to Patreon.
Well, yeah.
Because there's bonus episodes in there.
Absolutely, that's
it. And remember, if you do want to get your free month in August on Patreon, you will have to join by the end of June. So that's patreon.com/crimedivers. So,
what is the last episode of this series?
The last episode of the season is called The Lost Duck Hunter.
The Lost Duck Hunter?
Yeah.
Well, that does not give too many clues away. I mean, assuming there would be like a duck hunter, but
yeah, and he's lost.
And he's lost.
There you
I have
go.
no idea.
Right, okay, let's just switch off now.
Yeah, I know, we're done. No, where in the world are we?
We are in America. We seem to be in America a lot these days.
There's a lot of stuff going on in America.
Yeah. So should we
dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay.
So, Jerry Michael Williams, who was just known as Mike, was born on the 16th of October 1969. He grew up in Bradfordville, which is north of Tallahassee in Florida. I love that, Tallahassee. I think that's just such a good name.
Tallahassee.
Yeah, I love it.
This is one you can say.
Yeah, I know. Makes a change. So it was his mum, dad and his older brother Nick. When he was 15, he began duck hunting as a hobby.
Okay.
And he started dating a girl who went to the same school. She was called Denise Merrill. So when he left school, he went to Florida State University, where he majored in political science and urban planning. Mike and Denise got married in 1994 and they had a daughter in 1999.
Okay.
He continued to love duck hunting and often went in the morning before work and at the weekends. He was a hard worker and he made good money at his job as a property appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
On the morning of the 16th of December 2000, which was a Saturday, Mike got up early and he headed to Lake Seminole, which is where he went hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of ducks there, but there was also alligators.
Ooh.
So Mike promised Denise that he'd be back by lunchtime as it... Start again, rewind. Mike promised Denise that he would be back by lunchtime, as it
Seriously.
as it was their 6th wedding anniversary.
Okay.
They had planned just to go to a bed and breakfast, and they were just going to chill out and relax.
Yeah.
So, but Mike wasn't home by lunchtime. He did have a mobile phone, but he wasn't answering.
Mm-hmm.
When he wasn't home by dark, Denise phoned her dad and some friends, and they all arranged to meet at the lake and start a search for him.
Yeah.
So it was windy and cold and raining, plus it was dark, so the search was going to be a hard search.
Yeah.
So Florida Fish and Wildlife investigators were also called to the scene, but the search turned up nothing, and eventually they had to call it off just because the weather and the darkness was just making it too hard.
Uh-huh.
So the next day, Mike's boat was found, and his shotgun was in the boat. It was still in its case, and there was some other equipment was there as well, but no Mike.
Right.
So over the next few months, search and rescue divers, helicopters, and ground searches were carried out. Eventually, though, they realised it was a recovery operation rather than a rescue search. They realised that.
Yeah. The chance to find them alive were
pretty slim.
Mm-hmm.
So it was being treated as an accident, and it was thought that, unfortunately, Mike had fallen overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Florida Fish and Wildlife investigators believed that he had been pulled under by the weight of his fisherman's waders.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they drowned.
Right.
And as there was no body, people assumed that alligators had gotten to him.
Which is feasible, because
Well, it's not.
Okay, but...
Well, if you didn't know, as you don't, and I didn't before I read this, then yeah, that is feasible. You would think that maybe the alligators had gotten to him, but it's not. It's just not, because it was bitterly cold that day, and apparently alligators, they go like zombie-like. They almost hibernate.
Oh, right, okay.
And they don't really eat in the wintertime.
Right, okay.
So, but I didn't know that. So as I said,
didn't know that,
but you'd think that the people in Florida would know that because alligators are
quite common there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right, I didn't know that.
a police officer said that alligators don't eat people whole, but they do attack, they chew on people, they tear arms and legs, but they're always parts found after an alligator attack.
Right, okay.
They never eat a whole body.
Okay.
But not a single bone, or on the off chance that an alligator could have done it, there was not a single bone or a shred of human flesh found.
Right, okay.
And it was unusual because every other person who went missing on that lake, because I'm sure I read that there was something like 80 odd people who went missing on that lake.
Right, okay.
And every other, of all these people that went missing, every single one of them, their bodies or them had been found. Either they might still been alive or their bodies had been found.
Right. Okay.
So this is the only time that a body hasn't been, or parts of a body, or haven't been found.
Right.
So there was another thing. Not one single person remembers seeing Mike at the lake that morning.
So was he there?
Actually, he was. Sorry, I was just going forward, but yeah, he was.
Yeah, okay.
I've lost my place. So a week later, Mike's hat was found on the lake.
Right.
It was floating on the surface, and it was really close to where Mike would have been. So people couldn't figure out why that hadn't been found before. They've done extensive searches.
Aye, you think it would have been found before that.
So that was a bit dodgy.
That's a bit weird, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a few months later, a fisherman found a pair of waders. They were the same kind that Mike was wearing that day, but they were totally, intact. So if an alligator had attacked, then they would have been, ripped and torn, wouldn't they?
Well, there would have been some kind of trauma to them, wouldn't
Yeah. And again, as with the hat, why weren't they found before?
Yeah. If they've searched that well, then surely they would have come across them before.
Yeah, of course. So after another short time had passed, divers found Mike's hunting jacket. his hunting license, which was still legible, and his flashlight, which...
Is it like somebody's like planning it just every so often, just planning a little bit of evidence? I mean, that's what it's sounding like.
To the suspicious mind, it does sound like that. So, yeah, so this is 6 months later, right? So the divers have found his hunting jacket, his hunting license, which was still legible after being in the water for 6 months,
right? Yeah,
and his flashlight, which was miraculously still working after being in the water for 6 months.
Right.
So obviously there was no way that these items had been at the bottom of the lake, like for all that time.
Definitely not.
And there was no moss or algae on them, and they were obviously planted.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
to me.
and there was no DNA evidence found to link the clothing to Mike either. There was, obviously it was his clothing. You would have DNA evidence.
Well, you think so?
But yeah, a week later, a Leon County judge granted Denise Williams' petition to have Mike declared legally dead.
Why would they have that?
This is 6 months after he's went missing.
I thought you had to be like a certain amount of time passed, or
it's supposed
whatever.
to be 5 years.
Yeah. Well, that was like in that disappearance that we did. Remember the one I did about that Natalie Holloway?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that was 5 years, or maybe more after.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe more than 5 years. But anyway, it was a.
Well, I don't know, because that would have been a different place. But in Florida,
right.
it should be 5 years. It might be different in different places. Yeah. But Mike's mum, she didn't even know that Denise had asked for that, which I think is absolutely disgusting.
Well, yeah,
like,
totally.
That's her mum. She has a right to know.
Absolutely.
But
and a right to agree or disagree with that, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's mum, Cheryl, she's a trooper. She never gave up hope.
Well, the thing is, when they've started to find clues, I know what you're saying is that it seems like it's planted, which it does. But how is the judge then thinking, oh, right, well, we're going to like legally declare this guy dead when we've found a few more clues that might help our investigation figure out what's happened to him?
Because they reckon he was dead because of finding that stuff. That's why he got declared dead.
I
know. I get you.
Okay, right, go.
So yes, Mike's mum Cheryl, she never gave up hope.
La 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 la.
I was trying to speak quickly there, and it was just too quickly. She never gave up hope of finding him. She never believed that he was eaten by alligators, and she put full page adverts in the paper, and it was on billboards and everything, like asking the public for help. She even campaigned for a criminal investigation to be carried out, but she said that her pleas fell on deaf ears because she knew,
there's something that wasn't right.
Yeah. So Jennifer Portman, she's the news director for the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper, and she had never heard of the case until about 6 years after Mike had disappeared.
Right.
She was looking over past newspapers and she saw an advert that Cheryl had put in saying, "Have you seen my son?" And it explained about it being assumed that Mike had been eaten by the alligators, and it just seemed like a big mystery to her because she obviously knew. She was like, she obviously knew about alligators.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, she decided to write a story on it, and she started looking into the case. And she said that the alligators eating Mike was the thing that was what immediately just seemed bizarre to her. That's what kind of drew her in.
Right.
So she then started going through the reporting of it, and she said the records were thin. Like there was just nothing much at all. He died without a will. His wife declared him dead after 6 months, and they never found his body. She just found it strange,
bizarre.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially as in Florida, you usually have to wait 5 years before a missing person can legally be declared dead. The case didn't get much news attention at the time, and Jennifer thinks that's because Mike was looked at someone who drowned at the lake, so it just didn't look at.
It was just a tragic accident. Yeah.
And his wife Denise, she just wasn't interested in publicity, so it just kind of disappeared.
She got something to do with this.
You're very suspicious.
I am. Well, you give me reason to be.
So, friends and family said that Denise was devastated. She was only 31, a widow, and with a young daughter to bring up by herself. Mike had been the only man that she had, she'd been with, really, because, remember, they'd started dating in high school. But when Cheryl was campaigning for his mum, when she was campaigning for a criminal investigation, Denise was fuming. No, she was fuming about it.
Right.
So she actually threatened Cheryl and said if she did anything to get a criminal investigation, she would lose access to her granddaughter.
Why would you
not want a criminal investigation?
Exactly. You'd want to know what happened. That would send alarm bells in my head anyway.
Yeah. So Cheryl had said to her, but what if your daughter was missing? Would you not want to find her?
Exactly.
And Denise said that was different and that she had to go on with her life.
All right then.
So she didn't want to hear Mike's name again, and she didn't want to ever see his face again. Now, come on. Your husband is disappeared, accidentally, drowned or whatever, and you're talking about him like that?
Yeah.
No. No.
Nah.
You know, and apparently, you know, it's like to everybody else, they had a happy marriage. So, like, to be saying that...
Exactly, because I mean, especially for your daughter, I mean, you'd be able to show pictures of talk about so that she remembered Nah, that sounds dodgy to me.
Ding, 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 alarm
Denise,
bells.
you are hiding something.
So, but Cheryl did keep campaigning because,
quite right,
Denise was going to hold back her granddaughter, but that was her son, and she wanted answers for her granddaughter as well.
Exactly.
You know, so that her granddaughter would know what happened to her dad. So, I didn't blame her.
No,
I would have been exactly the same.
Yep.
So, Derrick Wester, he was the deputy sheriff. He believes that Mike was murdered. He always believed that Mike was murdered and that his body had been taken somewhere else, and that his boat, the truck and other items were staged at the lake to make it look like a tragic accident, which, that's exactly what I think.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
He actually inherited the case 4 years after Mike vanished. If it hadn't been for Mike's mum, then a criminal investigation would never have been opened. So if Cheryl had just left it and accepted that her son had just had a tragic accident, nothing...
Must have been like a mother's instinct or something, I reckon.
Yeah, she knew.
Yeah.
And she just wanted to know what happened to her son.
Quite right.
So investigators found the shotgun that was in Mike's boat strange. That gun wasn't for duck hunting. And Mike kept all his guns in the office for safety. If someone enters the office out of hours, a personal password is needed to turn off the alarm.
Right.
Mike's password was used to enter the office that morning, but it's strange that he would take the wrong gun.
Well,
so
if he does that quite a lot, he would know what gun he needs, wouldn't he?
Yeah. So when I was reading that, I thought, it was strange. But when we kind of read, when we find out what did actually happen, I don't know whether he did go and get it or not. Right. I don't really know why.
Okay.
And it also came out later from Mike's boss that Mike and Denise's marriage wasn't as good as everyone thought.
I was thinking that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah.
So he regretted not telling the police at the time, but Mike had confided in him about a month before he disappeared. And the boss had said that it was something to do with a credit card being over the limit, which was Denise's doing without Mike's knowledge. And so there must have been maybe a bit of financial stuff there, but it also kind of caused like trust issues because he was like, well, I can't trust her because she's doing stuff behind my back. Fair enough. So Mike had 2 life insurance policies.
What did I know?
Yeah, one of which was written about 6 months before he went missing.
Okay.
And that was for $1.5 million.
Oh, right.
Still think it was an accident?
Absolutely not.
But it's not known.
Let's be honest, we would be talking about this case if it was an accident.
Well, yeah. But it's not known if Mike actually knew that this policy was taken out.
Right.
Because it could have been.
See, it's ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to take. I mean, unless you forged his signatures, I suppose. But
Wait, just don't bother.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to explain how it could have been forged.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it was filled out as if it were him, but that could have been faked. His best friend, Brian Winchester, had been a childhood friend of Denise and ended up becoming Mike's best friend. Brian sold insurance.
And
it was thought that him and Denise together took out the life insurance on Mike, and Mike didn't know anything about it. So it would have been easy enough for him.
Right, okay, yeah.
That's why I thought I'll just stop you before you kind of get into it, because I was about to explain that. The investigator said a question did come up when Denise started asking about the insurance monies during the search. Now, she's asking about the insurance.
Oh, come on.
Before he was even declared dead. Like,
that's alarm bells there.
So
right there.
That's why I don't understand. Why did his mother have to campaign for a criminal investigation? To me, that would if a question was asked about that, then they should have been looking into it.
Well, yeah, because clearly there's a suspicion already there. Because I mean, that's a bit odd that she would, whilst they were searching for him, she's asking about life insurance. I mean, her sole focus should be, I want to find my husband. I want to know what's happened to him.
Not on the money. You shouldn't even thinking about the money.
I mean, yes, I understand if you know, in general life, you know, if something happens to your partner, you know, that is something that you will come to at the correct moment, but in that moment when he could still be found or whatever, that's not the right moment to be talking about that.
It's not. Totally agree. So not long after Mike had been declared dead, surprise, surprise, Denise and Brian started a relationship.
Oh, right, okay,
Well, it's thought that they'd been together for years before.
Oh, right, okay.
Before he'd went missing, but obviously they kind of went public.
Oh, right, yeah.
Brian had been married, but he divorced his wife and he moved into Denise and Mike's house. I mean, they even lived in Mike's house. Oh, it's so disrespectful.
And they got to claim the money.
And then he married Denise.
Mm-hmm.
So after they got married, Denise, she cut off all contact with Mike's mum and brother, and she just appeared to move on really quickly and basically just put Mike and his family behind her. Like, oh.
Yeah, she wanted a happy ending there.
Mm-hmm. So once they started treating it as a criminal investigation, there were some obvious clues that it hadn't been an accident. Mike's boat had been found full of gas, like it hadn't been used at all that day.
Mm-hmm.
The shotgun, Mike's brother had said that wasn't the one that he used to hunt ducks. His hunting gear was all in pristine condition, even though it wasn't found until 6 months after he disappeared. Like, it was supposedly under the water. And there was no sign of Mike, not one single bit of evidence that he had been there that day.
Right.
So it makes it hard to understand why it took so long for them to stop thinking it as an accident and start treating it like a criminal investigation. It's
crazy.
I know. So Mike's brother thought that there was another reason why Brian and Denise got married. It wasn't just because they loved each other when they were together. If they'd killed Mike to get the insurance money, then if they got married, they wouldn't be able to testify against each other if needed later on. So he thinks that's part of why they got married.
Yeah.
But despite Mike's brother's allegations, Brian had never been charged or even named as a suspect in Mike's disappearance.
Right.
So in 2012, Denise and Brian separated and she filed for divorce in 2015. Brian was ordered to comply with it, and as part of that order, he was to provide an appraisal of their house, which was due in August 2016. But on the day of the appraisal, which was the 5th of August, while Denise was driving to work, Brian had been hiding in the back seat of her car. So she was talking to her sister on the phone, and he just climbed over from the back and grabbed the phone off her. Can you imagine? You would absolutely shit yourself. You're just driving along, chatting away on the phone.
Yeah.
Although she shouldn't have been holding the phone in her hand.
Well,
but,
no.
you know. He was shouting, he was shouting directions at her, like telling her where to go, and she refused. And then he poked a gun in her ribs.
All right.
So he claimed that this was necessary because she hadn't been taking his calls or answering his texts. So
that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, that's what you do. So instead of going where he told her to, though, she pulled into a car park in front of a shop, like, so there's people like at the entrance, and like just so that they could talk.
Yeah.
So Brian told Denise that he was planning on killing himself with the gun.
Right.
He didn't want to get divorced, and he felt he had nothing left to live for. She managed to calm him down and drove him back to his truck. When he got out, he took a couple of sheets, a spray bottle of bleach, and a tool from Denise's car.
Okay.
He apologised to her, and she promised not to go to the police. She left and went straight to the police. Like, yeah.
Hello.
Brian was charged with kidnapping, domestic assault, and armed burglary, with 2 of the charges being felonies. Denise asked for protection orders as she feared for hers and her daughter's lives. At a hearing the following week, the court decided to hold Brian without bond. In December 2017, Brian was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the kidnapping, with credit for 502 days time served, to be followed by 15 years probation. However, just before Brian was sentenced, he made a confession.
Oh.
And I heard some of the audio, and this is what I heard on the audio. So this was Brian saying, "I went and met Mike at a gas station. I followed him to the lake." So they weren't. So he was at the lake. You know, I was saying people said that they hadn't seen him. So he was actually at the lake. We launched the boat. It was just like a hunting trip was supposed to be. I got him to stand up, and I pushed him into the water, and he was in a panic. Obviously, I was in a panic. I didn't know what to do, and I ended up shooting him.
Okay.
So Brian had cut a deal with prosecutors, and in exchange for his confession, he would not be charged with murder, even though he admitted killing Mike.
Right.
So he then told them where Mike's body was, and again I heard audio, and he said, "I backed my Suburban down to the edge of the lake and put his body in the back and pushed his boat back out into the water." He said he left Mike's truck and trailer at Lake Seminole to make his disappearance look like an accident, but actually Mike's body was nowhere near Lake Seminole. Brian took Mike's body 60 miles away at Carr Lake, which is like a marshy area, and it's actually only 10 minutes away from where Brian lived.
All right.
So Brian took investigators to where he buried Mike. The search uncovered Mike's skeletal remains and his wedding ring, along with clothes and gloves. They found that he had been shot at point-blank range in the face with a shotgun. Like, how could you do that to your best friend?
My God. For what?
Well, money, I'm assuming, to be with his wife and to take his money. And one last thing that he told the prosecutors, it was all Denise's idea. She's no getting away with it.
And I was just going to say, where does she come into this?
So he said that she would. All right. So he said that Denise had said that she would not get divorced from Mike. So she basically said there's only one solution:
to kill him. Why is that the solution?
Listen. She didn't want the public humiliation of a divorce, so she would rather be known as a widow. Like, the public humiliation of a divorce, what, is it going to be splashed all over the
like,
papers?
are you famous or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, nobody's going to care, love.
No, even if you're famous, no, they're still not going to care.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think she just wanted to collect on the life insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that.
I think that's fairly obvious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, in May 2018, 5 months after Mike's body had been found, Denise was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory after the fact. She was found guilty on all counts, and she was sentenced to life in prison.
Good.
And Brian Winchester, he'll be eligible for release in 2034. So he's still going to be in for a while yet as well. So,
yeah. See,
Go
don't kill your partner for life insurance. It's ridiculous. You always get found out.
No, just and don't kill your partner because you don't want to get divorced.
I know, honestly. I don't understand where people, what their thinkings are, their thoughts. I mean, where do you think that's a good idea?
What? I mean,
I just don't. I don't understand what goes through people's minds sometimes, I tell you.
It's good to have money. Of course it is. It's not the be-all and end-all. So don't kill for money.
No, it's not worth it.
And it's not that bad getting a divorce. Like,
exactly.
A lot of people do it. It's fine. It's not.
It's
I don't think I haven't been divorced, but I don't think I'd be humiliated by it. It's like, things don't work out sometimes. That's just the way it goes.
Exactly.
So
don't do it. And anybody, double check about your life insurance in case somebody takes out on you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's it as well. I mean, like, to me, it just seemed like 6 months afterwards, like, and they didn't think that it was a criminal investigation.
I know. Because surely, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure, like, if if somebody dies in suspicious circumstances, one of the things I would be like, right, have they got life insurance? When was it taken out?
Yeah.
Because it could be a suspicion.
I know, but at least eventually. And Cheryl got the closure. She knew what happened to her son. His body was found.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was just a trooper. She was determined.
Yeah.
She was just
total shame.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, thanks for ending our season 2 on that.
Oh no, I can't believe it's the end of season 2 already.
I know, but we deserve a break. We've worked hard, and it is time for a break for a couple of weeks just to recharge those batteries.
Yeah.
And come back with some more interesting, crazy, horrific.
I'm just letting you speak. Just
murders.
Let me see what you're going to say.
I don't know. We'll be back.
We will be back.
Yes, we will be back.
In the meantime, if you would like to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, we are
crime_divers_pod.
If you...
Our Facebook group is Crime Divers Podcast, along with our YouTube and TikTok is all Crime Divers Podcast.
I'm just going to let you carry on.
If you want to do Patreon, you can.
If you want to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Crime Divers. If you really miss us that much and want to talk to us, you can email us on crime_divers_pod@outlook.com.
And if you love the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review.
See you in a couple of weeks.
See ya. Bye.
Hey, we get it. You don't want to be hearing a Progressive commercial right now, so let us tell you something you do want to hear. No one is funnier than you. People laugh just thinking about the things you've said. I'm laughing at one of them right now. Coworkers repeat your jokes at the office, but they're never as good as when you tell them, and shame on them for trying. There. Don't you feel better? You'll also feel better knowing you could save when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Although I'm sure you'd have a funnier way to say that. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry. With 24/7 support and experienced staff at over 250 local branches. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.